Coming up, a Washington, D.C. rally is calling for the release of Leonard Peltier. We take a deeper look into the debate surrounding a potential name change of a national forest in Ohio, and the chief of the Cherokee Nation plans his second term in office. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Amirawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. We start today with news about the U.S. Census, where Indigenous people may not receive the data that tribes were expecting from the 2020 census. The U.S. Census Bureau is warning tribal leaders that its information will not be as accurate as in past counts. Tribes depend on accurate data from the census to receive federal funding for social services, as well as to plan the locations of schools or other social services. However, a new privacy rule means that more than 80% of tribes will not get a breakdown of the survey by age or gender. The new rules also add intentional errors to maintain confidentiality. A report released last month by the Federal Reserve Bank's Center for Indian Country Development said the census changes will, quote, harm the ability of self-governing tribes to meet the needs of their citizens. The Census Bureau told the Associated Press that it doesn't comment on outside reports, but did say the number of data tables for tribes in 2020 were reduced from 2010 because of privacy concerns. In San Antonio, Texas, Indigenous culture bearers are suing the city on the grounds of religious freedom. The two culture bearers, who are members of the Native American Church, are suing to be able to access a sacred site that had been fenced off. The lawsuit is headed by Coahuiltecan citizens Gary Perez and Matilde Torres. The city previously told 16 Coahuiltecan citizens conducting ceremony that they could conduct it anywhere else in the park. San Antonio officials fenced off the area accessing the site due to alleged safety concerns related to a tree removal project. So far, a judge has denied a request to be able to enter. In Arctic Greenland, a Nanook content creator is showing the world what it means to be Indigenous on Mother Earth's largest island. APTN's Sav Jonsa takes us on a guided tour of Q's Greenland.
An Nanook content creator from Greenland is making sure the world knows the truth about her home country.
Every time I go to new places, I just realize that people have no idea about anything about Greenland. There's even people who don't know that there are people living in Greenland.
Kupanuk Olsen is the creator of Q's Greenland, a TikTok and YouTube channel with over 500,000 followers across platforms. Her videos focus solely on Greenland, a country colonized by Denmark, and her Inuit culture.
It's important because we want our voice to be heard as well. When you've been in a colony, it's like you feel under pressure, and we have been industrialized so fast that it's like our culture haven't been able to keep up. So I think it's important to show our culture, to tell our own story, and change the law regarding to our own needs instead of the European or Danish law requirements. Because the cultures are so different from each other.
Though politically considered European, Greenlanders migrated to the island through Canada for thousands of years. Cultural elements like language and Arctic cuisine are relatable for her many Inuit fans in Canada.
We have the same way of hunting, the same way of understanding the nature, being one with the nature, and there's so much of our expressions with no and yes, with our facial expressions, with our culture, they're the same. So we have so much in common, and our languages are almost the same because it comes from the same root.
Today we are comparing our Inuit language between
Nunavut
and Greenland. Piniaktuvugut.
Asivartiuvugun.
Ayungiranga.
Kanoingittunga.
Kamagipugut.
Pehatigipugut.
With over 400 videos made and millions of likes and views, her internet fame is catching up with her in real life.
I've become really, really famous in Greenland. That is a bit annoying at the moment. I can't go out my door without being recognized. So I'm actually thinking to buy some caps today, so I can just hide a little bit more. I'm getting so much attention at the moment that it's getting a bit difficult.
But Olsen says no matter where her videos may take her, Greenland will always be special.
I've traveled to so many places around the world and realized how lucky I actually am, because our nature is so beautiful. We can go out hunting. We can feel like the Aboriginal feeling we all supposed to have as human beings out in the wild. So we still have that here. So we are pretty lucky.
Sab Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. In Washington, D.C., hundreds gathered in front of the White House to protest Leonard Peltier's imprisonment, which began in 1976. ICT's Pauly Denetclaw was at the rally and has the latest.
Yait'e Pauly Denetclaw Yanishya. I'm here in front of the White House today. Amnesty International and Indigenous-led organization Indian Collective are hosting a rally here in front of the White House demanding the clemency for Leonard Peltier. There are hundreds in the crowd. It's a hot day here in Washington, D.C., and yet still there are hundreds of people gathered in front of the White House chanting. There are speeches happening, and there is an air of urgency.
Who is Leonard Peltier? Well, the person we are speaking of is my dad, who I don't know. The shootout happened on June 26, 1975. November 2nd, 1975, I was born. So if you do the math, I wasn't even born yet when the whole shootout happened. So who is the man? I really don't know who the man is, just that he's been in prison far too long for a crime he never committed. They did ballistics testing on the gun and the bullet. None of it matched. And we just know him, like the younger kids know him as a person who's in prison for a crime he never committed. Growing up without a father, a dad figure, just know the name of Leonard Peltier is quite sad enough, but now he has, his grandkid is here, and he has a great grandchild that was just born in March. So how would he feel to not know his grandkids, his great grandkids? And my message to him would be like, what would you do if you were in false imprisonment and you weren't even be able to help out your son what you're doing right now? I don't care what it is, being able to be there, achievements, I was 18 years old and I graduated high school. I was hoping my dad would be there. So when that day came and left, I was like, wow, he's going to miss many more unless we get him freed. So I just want to free my dad I feel like it's too late for me, but get my dad freed for his grandkids so they get to know who he is as a person and not just locked up behind those bars. So in those 48 hours, when the time was up, it was gone. But because they were so aggressively trying to get my dad out when the Clinton era, a lot of it was used for his paralegal, his defense committee. So sometimes my sisters and my brother, we would have to fight for just even 5 hours to see him. So sometimes we only got to see him once a month for 3 months. And then the rest of the time was for the lawyers. And that was during the holidays. We try to go see our dad. With the Coleman, my understanding is that they're constantly on lockdown. So even trying to see my dad is not even a chance. I got to see him once, and that was 3 years ago.
We're here to support Leonard Peltier and his incarceration for over 45, 6, 7, 8 years. And he's been unjustly incarcerated at different prisons throughout the country. And we're here to ask Biden to give him clemency.
And what's your message to Biden?
Free Peltier. You know, I think that's the message from everybody across Indian country. The majority of the people, Native people, are asking that. I'm the mother of his daughter, Kathy Peltier. And we were together for a very short time because there was too many things going on at that time. Shiprock was the last time I saw him in 1975, and we were supposed to meet up in Crow Dog's Paradise for the Sundance, but June 26th happened, so we didn't get to meet there. I mean, he was there and I was there, but they kept us apart because they didn't want anybody to really know what our relationship was. Reign of Terror? Okay, there's one incident that I'm really familiar with, and that was the 74, summer of 74. We were Grace Black Elk and I had gone up to Porcupine, South Dakota for some kind of ceremony, and I drove her up there. On the way back, I don't know how you know that it's hilly and curvy and all that. They chased us. Yes, they chased us, and they do that to all the people who are AIM, or who they think are AIM people, American Indian Movement people. But we were chased, and when we got to Martin, South Dakota, they just let us go. They just, they said, okay, this is out of our jurisdiction because it's another county. So yeah, it was scary. But that's how they treated a lot of the traditional people up there during that time. And they're still doing it now, but it's all under secrets. You don't know who your friend is anymore because, they turn on you. And like my friend says, money talks. So if they offer you money and tell you to go after that, and you see the money and it's like, oh my gosh, I got money, they'll do it. It's really scary. Still scary now.
This is all now about clemency. This is about justice and mercy. Clemency or compassionate release, which is another avenue for him to become free. The legal case has run its course. If he was tried today, no way he gets convicted. That is not the law today. The violations that law enforcement committed, that the U.S. Attorney's Office committed at that time, the threats, the intimidations, the constitutional violations. One of the jurors was an admitted prejudice, racist against Native Americans. She admitted that on day 2. It's a Sixth Amendment violation. Today, this case gets tossed. 1977, when it was tried, there was a different era. So all that time has passed. One of the unfortunate things about the legal system is that it puts a high premium on finality. Even if we get it wrong, they like to say it's over. And so there's not that opportunity to come back and go, no, you got this incredibly wrong. So now we're in the political process, speaking to the president about clemency and about a reduction in the sentence through compassionate release.
Reach deep, deep, deep inside your heart, my old friend, Mr. Biden, and have all the compassion you can muster for my brother, Leonard Peltier. I'm pleading for family. I'm pleading for a relative. He's not just a cause to me. He's my family. Please show compassion to this one man, this one Native man who needs to be free now. He wants to get out and look at the sky. He doesn't want to go out in a wooden box. He wants to go out where he can talk to people and breathe free air, as he said. Let him do that. He's had 2/3 of his life have been behind bars. It's time. It's time.
I'm Pauly Denetclaw in Washington, D.C. for ICT News.
The peaceful protest ended with multiple arrests. Among the 35 taken into custody were actor Dallas Goldtooth, Indian Collective CEO Nick Tilson, and National Congress of American Indians President Fawn Sharp. Each was issued a $50 citation for blocking a sidewalk, and no one was taken to jail. You can find more coverage about this on our website at ictnews.org. Wayne National Forest is currently named after a military war general who once led an attack against Indigenous tribes, but that could soon change. About a year ago, the Biden administration created a task force to review place names with a racist history. This debate about whether to rename Ohio's only national forest shows this plan in action. ICT's Demi Dupavillon has more.
Over 40 Native American tribes have ancestral ties to the land that is now Ohio, specifically Wayne National Forest.
They were the first stewards of this land. So tribes manage these forests, before we ever arrived here.
Anytime any federal action takes place, tribal nations are consulted, and we make sure that any archaeological resources are preserved.
Tribes have requested government agencies to replace the name of the forest for decades. It is currently named after Anthony Wayne, an American Revolutionary War general who commanded forces during the Northwest Indian War. A debate is underway as the name recalls a violent past.
During the era of Anthony Wayne being in the southern Ohio, you had Shawnee and Miami villages. And I don't mean there were Shawnee villages and Miami villages. I mean Miamis and Shawnees were living together.
The two tribes worked together to expel U.S. settlers from their territory. The name change request was formalized last year as part of the Biden administration's effort to reevaluate derogatory place names. Tribes in the Forest Service have proposed renaming the property Buckeye National Forest after the state's tree.
Coming to something that everybody can agree to, like a Buckeye National Forest. What a great name, because you got the Hoosier National Forest next door.
Opponents to the name change, such as Republican Senator J.D. Vance, argue it erases Wayne from American history. Supporters say it's an opportunity to confront the nation's complicated past and mend it.
Southern Ohio forests and riverways have been cleared of Native Americans, so I'm not sure we can erase Wayne from history. I think he left his mark on history in very much a very indelible way. We'll never be able to erase that. It happened.
It's the opportunity to begin to heal, to begin to reconnect or connect our forest deeper than just around a name.
The public comment period ended September 4th. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack will make the final decision. Demi Dupavillon, ICT News.
Earlier this summer, Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. won re-election to office for another 4-year term. As he begins a new administration, the chief has called this some of the most challenging times in Cherokee history. I spoke with Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. about this. Take a look. Welcome, Chief Hoskin.
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
In your inauguration speech last month, you talked about a great Cherokee century. Tell us what that means to you.
Well, the 21st century can be a great Cherokee century if we make it so. And what that means is we have to continue to protect and defend tribal sovereignty. I mean, certainly we've got our opponents. We've got the governor of the state of Oklahoma who opposes tribal sovereignty. He just appointed a Native American liaison who opposes tribal sovereignty. And so we've got our work cut out for us, but we've got to protect and defend it. We've got to assert our rights, such as our rights to a delegate to Congress. That's a treaty right that goes back nearly 200 years. But we have to do a great deal more. We have to build what makes a great society, and that is investing in the public good. So that's the reason we're investing so much into healthcare. That's why we're looking at healthcare as a system of wellness. We want a system of world-class wellness, mind, body, and spirit. So that means that we're also addressing nutrition, physical activity, all of those things across the reservation. We're going to continue to invest at the grassroots. We have a new exciting program called the Gadugi Corps. Gadugi is the Cherokee word for working together. It's about national service and volunteerism. How can we support that at the grassroots level to keep our nation strong? Language preservation, the list goes on and on. But those sorts of investments we've got to make if we're going to make this century a great Cherokee century.
Chief Hoskin, you mentioned the delegate Kim Teehee as a delegate to Congress. Well, there is bipartisan support for that action and a clearly identified treaty right. When do you think Congress will actually seat her?
Well, that's the real question. And that's something that 4 years ago I was a little more naive about in terms of anticipating that the Congress would keep its word on such a simple proposition. Let's remember, it says Cherokee Nation shall be entitled to a delegate in the House of Representatives when Congress shall make provision for the same. Here we are 4 years later. They haven't done it, but we're just going to redouble our efforts and press forward. So this fall, we're going to be making some additional outreach to members of Congress to try to educate them. A year ago, nearly a year ago, we had a hearing, a historic hearing in the Rules Committee, in which we laid out our case, which is a case that is completely solid, unassailable, and I think we have to keep doing that. So to your question, I don't know when, but I know that we can't give up, and we won't give up. So we'll continue to press the case.
I want to talk about state relations. You, of course, mentioned the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, and he recently appointed a Cherokee Nation citizen, Wes Snowfire, as the state's tribal liaison. You actually released a statement saying you were disappointed by that selection. Tell us why, and specifically about his record against the Cherokee people.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we start with the governor, the most anti-tribal sovereignty governor in the history of the state of Oklahoma, and that's been well demonstrated. I mean, he's attacked the historic McGirt case, which reaffirmed the reservations of the tribes. He tried to destroy our gaming compact. At every turn, Governor Stitt tries to create a world in which tribes don't exist. He really believes it. He now has appointed a Native American liaison who also believes it. And no one has to take my word for it. This is all documented. Wes Snowfire, as a council member, was actually against Cherokee sovereignty. He actually declared that Cherokee Nation didn't have the legal authority to operate courts. I mean, those are his words, not mine. He called McGirt, that historic decision that all of Indian country cheered, he called it the biggest threat to Oklahoma. And that's why he's a seated council member. I mean, that's the reason that Governor Stitt appointed him, because they see the world the same way. People shouldn't be confused that this is a Cherokee citizen. He served on our council. Maybe he'll be good in the position. He is wholly unqualified for the position, but worse, he's actually hostile to tribal sovereignty. Again, nobody has to take my word for it. They just have to read what he's written and what he said.
Given that, as you just said, he's unqualified for this position, how do you continue to work with him in this position, given that he could serve for a few years?
Well, I don't see how we can work with him. I mean, this is a person who, again, doesn't believe Cherokee Nation possesses the sovereign right to exercise and operate courts. I mean, that's where he starts. That's what he believes. He thinks McGirt, which reaffirmed our reservation, is a threat to Oklahoma. It's difficult to work for a person like that. I haven't even described his completely unhinged ideological extreme positions and conspiracy theories. I mean, he's accused Cherokee Nation of being involved in child trafficking. These are dangerous pieces of rhetoric that could spur unstable people to political violence, but that's what he believes. I mean, I could go on and on. I just read an article where he said that Cherokee Nation was being run by the devil, the beast. This is who is in office, and I don't see how we work with a person whose mind operates in that way. And even if we strip all that away, he's actually not qualified for the position if you look at what it calls for, because I've seen him, I've had a front row seat in how he operates. He doesn't understand Indian country issues, but he is hostile to our interest, and he peddles in conspiracy theories.
Chief Hoskin, as you just mentioned, given all of this background, do you have any hope that the relationship between the Cherokee Nation and the state of Oklahoma will get better?
I do, but not because I have confidence in the governor and not because I have confidence in West No Fire, because I really don't have any. But the legislature has actually taken action to engage with tribes. I mean, the legislature is in a lawsuit right now with the governor because the legislature said, look, we got to have some adults in the room here. We're going to create an atmosphere in which tribal compacts are extended. I'm talking about tobacco compacts and CARTAG compacts. We have a great relationship on a bipartisan basis. And actually, the Republican leadership in the state legislature, in the House and the Senate, are very much our friends in terms of, look, we don't agree on every single thing, but they do understand that tribes are valuable. We can work with them. And even where we disagree, the disagreements are just by degrees. You know, we always find common ground. So I have a lot of confidence in our relationship with the state. I don't have confidence in our relationship with Governor Stitt or his effectively the person who parrots his anti-tribal sovereignty rhetoric, West No Fire.
Well, Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr., we know that you have a nation to run, so we thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you so much, Widow.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.